Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for organizing this hearing. Thanks to each of you for coming here to enlighten us. It's become very popular to talk about the negative impacts of using coal and natural gas, but we really should have a conversation about the extent to which we rely on them and about the positive impacts of using them. The fact that the American people benefit from them in ways that can't simply be overlooked and dismissed. The reality is that human beings are able to survive and thrive much more readily, much more comfortably, much more affordably because of affordable and plentiful and reliable power, primarily coming from natural gas and from coal. And so the advantage that fossil fuel electric power generation provides isn't something that we can just ignore. It's something that makes it not only affordable but also available on demand as base load power on a consistent basis. We all benefit from that, from being able to walk into a room and turn on the light switch and know that the lights are going to come on and it'll be affordable and reliable. Now, sadly, we're seeing an all-of-government approach war on reliable power waged by unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats in the Biden administration. Just as one of many examples, the Biden EPA has been on a crusade against coal-fired power plants, imposing crippling new regulations, what seems like every single week. Mr. Robb, I'd like to start with you. NERC, the organization that you lead, is the reliability watchdog for the grid. Is that fair to say?
It's a fair characterization.
And I think most of us can agree that coal-fired power plants are being retired prematurely, which is especially alarming when you look at the realities on the ground, when you consider things like the fact that when replacement baseload power supply has not been brought online, we need to be worried about this. Tell me why this trend should be troubling to us, or is it troubling to you?
It's highly troubling because we're retiring these plants before their attributes are being fully replaced. And their attributes are more than just the energy that they produce. One of the important things, it's a little esoteric, but one of the important things that these plants provide is the ability for the grid to maintain voltage and maintain frequency and to resist disturbances. Other resources can't do that nearly as well as large spinning mass generation. And that's why the loss of coal plants and natural gas plants and nuclear plants is so concerning from a grid reliability perspective.
Okay, so it goes beyond cost. It's about reliability, and without reliability, we lose some significant benefits. Now, requests for future generation published by the large regional transmission organizations, or RTOs, show that the vast majority of projected future generation additions are going to come from wind and from solar. For example, within MISO, one of the largest RTOs, solar and wind comprise 64% of new generator requests, while natural gas comprises only 3% of those requests. But given the retirement of dispatchable power, will this ratio of new wind and solar projects, on the one hand, to natural gas-fired projects, on the other hand, be sufficient to meet the need, the demand for reliable power in the coming decades?
It'll be highly problematic without reinforcing the natural gas system, which is very, very important for integrating renewables, and or the eventual development and deployment of long-duration energy storage, which as yet does not exist at scale.
Right. Mr. Tudor, you lead a large electric cooperative, and I've been very interested in your work, and I'm interested in your thoughts on why coal power plants are being forced to retire as they are, and why investment in new natural gas plants is seeming to be stifled. Tell me, do regulations like the EPA's good neighbor rule, do they make blackouts more likely or less likely?
More likely. Any premature retirement of something that works without having something that doesn't work to replace it seems dangerous to me and logical. So yes, there has been a continuous push to retire fossil fuel plants, mainly coal, and now move on to natural gas plants. And what it's done is it's
move on to them, meaning
retire
moving on to them to retire them,
yes,
force
sir.
their retirement,
or not even build any. And people are afraid to try and build something that's fossil when the EPA regs continue to come out that are negative to an investment of any kind in fossil fuels. So if you're sitting here going, am I going to build a windmill or am I going to build a gas plant? I'm going to build a windmill. Why? Because you can. It will be very difficult for that 3% that we're talking about here of new natural gas plants to get permitted, get in the queue and get connected to the grid and actually get built and completed. And it takes now 5 or 6 years to build a brand new natural gas plant where it used to take 2 to 3.
In the meantime, they're not replacing that with nuclear power, traditional or small modular nuclear. They're not replacing that
yet.
with geothermal or hydroelectric.
They can't yet because the technology is not there yet. I mean, there's a big difference between capacity, which is the ability to deliver energy, and energy. So if you take a wind product, which I'm not against wind, but wind in general gets about 15% capacity credit in the RTOs, where a coal plant gets around 80% capacity in an RTO. What that means is the coal plant produces and runs 80% of the time, and the wind farm runs 15% of the time. When it's windy, the wind produces a lot of energy, which is a good thing. When it's not, they virtually have nothing, and you have to rely, as Mr. Rob's saying, you have to rely on something that is base load to maintain the integrity of the service, basically to our consumers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.